Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Sparks by Vinofonk. My name is Jeroen, and today we're going to talk about sherry. Well, sherry, isn't that something that your grandmother used to drink? Well, no, let's make sherry great again, like Nadine Visser always tells me. Sherry is a fantastic product, and today we have a guest from a very special winery. It's from Bodegas Viuda de Manjon. Difficult name for me. They're from Jerez, but our guest will tell you everything about it. The name of the guest is Pablo Garcia de Leon. Pablo, hello.
Hello, nice to see you again, and thank you very much for having us here today. It's a pleasure to be with you and to tell you a bit more about our winery and our wines.
Well, thank you very much for your time. The sponsor of the show is Anvos Imperial, your Dutch importer. They sent me these 4 bottles, and we're going to tell you more about the importer. But the most important thing is, Pablo, can you tell me something about who are you, and can you tell me something about the bodega?
Okay, so I am Pablo García de León from the south of Spain, Andalucía, and Jerez. I was born in Jerez, and I am one of the co-founders of the winery. I am the director of marketing and sales. And well, the company was relaunched 5 years ago, but it was established in 1846. So we are again in the battle of making sherry great again, as you said.
Perfect. So it's a very old winery, but it relaunched 5 years ago. But how did you came up with this idea?
Well, the winery was established in 1846, more than 175 years ago, by a married couple in Sanlúcar. Actually, it was founded in Sanlúcar, and the names were Pedro Manjón and Leona Mergelina, and that's why the name of the winery it's Viuda de Manjón. That means widow of Manjón, because Pedro died a few years after founding the company, so she took over the company and continued and grew the company to become a very well-known company, a winery in the region, in the market, Marco de Jerez, and also in the world. And after 3 generations, they sold the company to González Díaz, also a well-known sherry winery of Jerez. And after many years, we were outside the company, outside the family. My mother actually is the owner of the company again, another woman, the fifth generation of the company. I am the sixth generation of the company. We start talking, and we decided that we should help Jerez and Sherry to become great again, and with all the knowledge that we have. So we started the commercialization, the marketing again 5 years ago. But all these years back, we have been growing grapes and selling them to other wineries. So we sold the wines and the brands, but we kept the farm and growing grapes all these years back.
It's a very interesting story. So your grapes were used to make sherry, but now you start making sherry yourself again. And did you still have the winery then?
Well, as I said, we sold much of the company we cut the company, and the biggest part was sold to González Díaz. So 5 years ago, we bought back some of the brands from González Díaz. There were Manjón, Viuda de Manjón, and again Leona, the name of the founder. That is the name of the brand in Spain. It means lioness. It's a very strong name, but it was the name of the founder actually. But now in the international market, when we went outside Spain last year, that we started again our internationalization, we saw that the Leona was taken in other regions of the world. So we rebranded the brand to go outside, and we call it Leaena. That is the name that you find in the labels in the bottle of that you have with you, and it means Leona, but in English, but it's Latin. So we try to keep this traditional heritage that we have from Jerez and many years. So Leona and Leaena is the same, Spanish and Latin.
Can you tell me something about where your vineyards are in Jerez?
Okay. We actually have two vineyards, one in Sanlúcar and another one in Jerez. We have around 20 hectares divided between both lands, and 20 hectares of Palomino grapes. That is the main grape that we have in Jerez and the most used for making sherry wine. We have other grapes. We have also Pedro Jimenez and Moscatel, but mostly Palomino grapes. And well, we have these lands in two different pagos. Pagos are like small places of land that you can find in the Marco of Jerez. So the whole Marco is divided in small pieces of land. And we have then in Pago the Miraflores in Sanlúcar and the other one in Jerez. It's a Pago called Espartina, a very small but a very old one with a very good tradition of making great wines.
Miraflores sounds very familiar. Is that one of the most famous Bagos?
Yes, actually, it is. It's yeah, very close to Sanlúcar, and you have a very good climate and very good soil. It's a good place to grow the grapes. We have this in the wines. You see that in the wines.
And today we have here four of your different kinds of sherry, but we have a Fino, we have an Oloroso, Amontillado, and a cream. But is this only a small part of your portfolio, or are you only making four kinds of sherry?
Actually, we are making nowadays, we are making six of them, six different sherries. We are launching products year by year. We have wines that have been produced in Sanlúcar and others that have been produced in Jerez. So we'll see also this different of making wines in one place and in other. They are very close, they're 20 kilometers away from the other. But you see different climate because the wines in the Marco of Jerez are not very technified. The different climates that you have with the sea and also in summer you have higher temperatures in Jerez, for example. This impacts in the wine, in the making wine process. So we have six of them, as I
Shall we
said.
start? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. We have these six, and we are going to have other Pedro Jimenez next year, and I will also go to still wines that maybe we talk later.
Okay, yeah. So uh, just like a cliffhanger, are you going to make a Vino de Pasto?
Yeah, we're going to do that. Actually, we're going to start this year, and it will be well, our first experiment, I will say. But we are really enthusiastic with this new wave of unfortified wines that will have a new opportunity to bring more people to sherry again. It will be the beginning of the journey. And very happy to have these wines before going to sherry to educate again the people.
I want to hear more about it, but let's do it. Let's do that later. Shall we start opening up the Vino?
Yeah, perfect.
Very curious. I didn't open them yet. And on the back side, it says Saka Otoño 2023.
We bottle small amounts of bottles each year, and actually this was a Saka of 100 and no, sorry, 1,200 bottles. And we did the Saka. A Saka, it's like an extraction and bottling of the wine. Uh, yeah, well, not 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, and that's the name of the Saka, Otoño, that means autumn 2023.
Bottle was filled in the autumn of 2023.
Yeah, it's the filling
It's like 1.5
date.
years ago.
Yeah, it's the filling date, not the date of the production. As you may know, sherry wines are not are a mixture of many years. So you don't uh, take all the wine from the barrel at what time, but actually you take a percentage of the barrel and then you next year or the same year put new wine inside, so you never have empty your barrel, and it's a mixture of many years of wines.
I love the color. It's like golden yellow, and the aromas are so intense, so beautiful, and it's very concentrated.
Yeah,
But
actually,
you have a lot of apple, chamomile.
you will see that we have a very beautiful color. Our wines are, well, we call it in Jerez mostly in Rama. In Rama, it's when you don't filter the wines or you make a very small filtration of the wine. So you will have all this smell, all this color, and it's very, very natural wine and it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Let's taste it. Salud.
So you will see that Fino is a very, very dry wine. It's one of the driest wines in the world, actually. And it's very salty also. So it's a beautiful wine to pair with seafood, for example, with raw food also, for example, sushi, also very many times used in Japan or Japanese restaurants to give this extra salt to the food.
It pairs very well with umami food, but this one is very concentrated. It's very powerful, but very dry and high in aromatics. A lot of flavors. The aftertaste is very long. I can still taste it. The acidity is perfectly balanced. It's a very serious vino, this one.
Yeah, you normally have the Fino, you drink it chilled, you have it with sun, you have it cold, not very, very cold, but with a good temperature because as we said, it's dry and it's very, it makes you salivate and it's very, very interesting, as I said, for tasting also with a Spanish jam, with cheese also, with many things.
Yeah, it's very versatile and it's very gastronomic also. So, but just drink it standalone in the sun with some cheese. It's perfect. It's
Also with
very.
salads, for example, and vegetables, because again, it gives you this extra salt. It gives you flavor. It makes flavors bigger.
I searched for the prices that Anfors sells them, and on the website the Vino is for 28.75. So it's under the 30 euros, but for it's a whole bottle, 75 centiliters, and it's very serious. It's very well made, very good Fino, and it's Enrama, as you told us. So you have a lot of flavors, lot of complexity. You really have to try this.
Yeah,
I'm over enthusiastic, I know, but
and this wine has 5 years of average of aging. Again, we have this average normally in the wines because it's made from a mixture of wines of many years. So in average, it's been aging 5 years.
it's lovely. Thank you very much. Shall we go to the next one?
Perfect.
And I thought the next one would be the Amontillado. But I learned something today because we better go to the Oloroso. And why is that, Pablo?
Well, as I told you before, we have 6 different wines, and here Oloroso is 12 years of aging, and Amontillado is it's 20 years of aging on average. When we go to the Amontillado, to our Amontillado, we are going to a more complex product, more complex wine, 20 years of aging. That's a lot, no? So when we go to Oloroso before, it's why it's because it's easier to drink, it's softer, it's much simpler than the Amontillado. So in our case,
You already had it in your glass.
yeah,
I love the label also. And here you can see it's an Rama again because it's a little bit cloudy,
yeah, you will
but it's
see
very soft in the nose.
it
And again,
smells
this
a lot. The name of Oloroso means that it smells. So you have put it in your nose. It gives you
yeah, it's like salted caramel, uh, and without a chocolate, of course. But you also smell a lot of toffee, but also apple, pear, again some chamomile.
yeah.
And here you
Also,
also have some blossoms like orange blossoms and orange peel. Oh, it's very nice. And this comes from the Saka number 3 and only 1,300 bottles.
Yeah, what 1,300. Yeah, 13. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, we do a small sacas, and in this case, it's from 2022. These are our last bottles. Also, actually, you are having the last bottles of these sacas, and so this is a very this is from Sanlúcar, very soft wine, very fine. Um, I would say very easy to drink and very um people that really likes Oloroso likes this Oloroso, and it comes from Sanlúcar, and it's not the typical Oloroso from Jerez that could be drier, but it's softer and it looks more like a young Palo Cortado, I would say.
Let's try it.
You see that it's tasty, it's powerful, but very, I would say, also subtle and very
Yeah.
very like you again salty. We have a different aging here. We have different methods of aging the wine and producing the wine. The one that we drank before is we use the biological aging that we call it under layer of yeast, a particular way of making wine. And this yeast that it's alive, it keeps the wine away from the oxygen. So that's why we have this yellow bright color, because the grape actually it's white. This wine is made from the same grape. Uh, so you see the different colors from the white to this copper, brown, calva color, and it's of the because we you use a different method of aging, and we call it oxidative. So this color comes from this oxidation of the wine when it makes contact with the oxygen.
I like it very much again, but well, I'm a big fan of sherry. My glasses are colored, I would say. But what I found interesting in this Oloroso, it's salty, but also you have some roundness, some structure, and then you think, okay, now my mouth will contract, but then goes in like a little bit of a flow, and then more complexity, subtle notes come, like hazelnuts, bird uh, toffee, bird almonds, and then you get a new sensation, and then a lot of saltiness again, like a sea breeze, and it goes on, and the aftertaste is very long, very complex.
Yeah, it stays in the mouth a lot of time, and but it's a very, I would say, very nice flavor when you have it in the mouth, and also the smell also it's gives you a full experience in both mouth and nose.
And again, very gastronomic, I will say. This Oloroso at Anfors, you can buy it for 32 euros and 25 cents. Really have to try it.
Yeah,
It's
and
80%
it's
ABV, so it's not a light wine, but that's normal because it's oxidative
yeah,
style.
and actually it has a very good price because it's 12 years of aging. I mean, there is a lot of years waiting to have this product and work, and and I think the price worth this product.
Yeah, try to find a very good aged wine from from some country of the world for 32 euros. No, you can't find it.
And also, as you said, it's very gastronomic. Not only Oloroso, but all sherry range, our range, it's very focused to gastronomy, to restaurants, to pairings, because each wine gives you a different experience. And in this case, we have the this pairing or special pairing with red meat, for example, again with cheese, also with game, maybe duck with a good beef. Also, again, you also can have it with foie gras, also very nice. And I think you can also have it alone, so you have a nice glass of wine, so you can also think and have it in an evening at home.
It's very versatile, and that's why you also have the big competition Copa Jerez, where teams all over the whole world make a 3-course dinner, pair it with sherry for the ultimate combination. And it's this summer in Gerritsa, I think, maybe June.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting competition. It's an international competition that makes some of the very best restaurants of the world come with a menu and a pairing with different wines, and it's experience. And we think that in Jerez we have the best wines for taste this contrast of dryness and also with sweetness, so you can have the whole range and the whole tasting menu with sherry, and you will see your experience being amazing, I would say.
I was at the finalist of the Dutch part of Copenhagen last year, and the winner, restaurant Basilique from the Netherlands, they made a very, very nice combination. So I will say they will win. But the combination were like salty and sweet, and then got very harmonious. So I'm very curious how they will perform at the other competitors. Shall we go to the next wine?
Yeah.
And then we go to the Amontillado.
So the Amontillado is our oldest wine. It has on average 20 years of aging, so it's a jewel. I mean, which wine would you find with 20 years of aging? And actually, we think that we sell our wines quite cheap because you cannot find these things in other places. And sherry, it's unique. It's a unique region. It's one of the classical regions of the history of wine, and actually one of the oldest regions.
Sorry, I was distracted by a beautiful color. Did the grapes come from the oldest vines?
Again, this is well, Amontillado. It's a combination of two type of of aging. One part it's in the first years we use the biological aging, and then we use the oxidative. So we have 12 years of biological aging. When you see that we start with Fino. Fino is the base of this product, and when it gets old, I would say, this yeast that we talked before, this live yeast, dies, and this oxidation comes. But when you have had first 12 years of biological aging, so you see that Oloroso, it's 12 years in our case of oxidative from day zero, and Amontillado, the difference is that we have 12 years of biological, and then we go 8 years to oxidative. So in this case, well, again, I think you have a more complex product, a wine, a beautiful color, as you said. It's also very, 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 very well, very rounded. You have almond, you have wood. We have our casks are very old, very, very old. We don't throw away our casks. Actually, they are also an asset because we keep them centuries. Maybe this cask is 150 years old. So it's also you cannot buy them in a supermarket, I would say.
You can't buy them in the supermarket, no. But the aromas are also very warm, like a warm blanket over yourself. Yeah, it's very complex, very nice.
Normally, people say, or the people that have been drinking many sherry, they say that this is their favorite wine. Of course, you have a journey when you start with sherry, and you have to educate your palate if you haven't tried these wines because it's not a normal wine. It's a different. It's you have white, red, and this is mm, not white wine, and it's not a red wine. So you may not have this flavor in your mind.
Yeah, because it's 20 years old. It's super complex. It's very high in complexity, but you can define the different layers also. But when you define them, you find out there's a lot of balance. But it's very, very nice. And again, this is the Saka number 1,300 bottles only. The price of this wine of 20 years old is 41.50 for a wine that is 20 years old. Almost nothing. Maybe you want this in like a spray in your home because it's so
Yeah,
lovely.
actually,
Yeah,
many years
but
ago,
you don't got to
what
spray it at your home when you want to drink it.
what many years ago, women in Jerez, they had a maybe a napkin, and they put these wines, the napkin inside a glass of sherry, and they did like this, for having this smell, of beautiful smell of. And when you go to the Mark of Jerez, to the sherry world, and you go inside a winery, it's 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 embrace yourself with this smell, and it's like going to a special place.
I can imagine that. But I said, okay, this is very complex, but it's also very drinkable. It's not heavy. It's not, okay, I only want a little sip. It's
Yeah,
very drinkable. It's very accessible at the same time.
yeah, I think it's a very fine wine, and again, when you normally have these wines with sun cold, and it's very important also to have these conditions, because again, it's a dry wine, and it has, well, a high percentage of alcohol. In this case, you find that we have, I think, degrees of
19, yeah.
19. So, well, it sounds a lot, but you don't feel it in your mouth when you drink it. But the concentration of all these years give you this alcoholic percentage.
Yeah, but you have to serve it cold, like between 10, 12, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
like
yeah.
12 and
So
15.
it's important to keep the condition, not only in sherry, but in all wines. So if you have them in, quite hot, then you will have the full experience. You need some cold, because it's a dry wine. You need to have the wine to be in the perfect condition.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Again,
Um,
I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very happy with it. Shall we go to the last one?
we did, include one more thing. I think this product,
Okay.
it's very special also for giving more flavor to some products, and I love to have it with, for example, spicy food such as Mexican food, tiradito, ceviche. It's amazing, to have this way with. Also, for example, with Indian food, all food that has these spices also, it's very fun to have them to drink with it.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine because like the very spicy herb like garam masala or a good curry powder, you have this very strong and thin slicing through your palate, and this is more round and contracting. So then you think, okay, opposite isn't good, but in this case, I will say opposite attracts.
No, actually, it
I'm
balances
gonna
it.
try that out.
Yeah, it balances it, and I think it's a very fun wine for that combinations with spices. And I love spicy, so with tacos, and also it's very meat tacos, and it's very fun to drink it with those kind of food that you may not think to pair it.
Very interesting. Let's try that out ourselves. Then we're going to the last one, cream. And it's not bread cream, just other name of a sherry. Okay, Paulo, can you tell me something about this wine?
Yeah. So now we started with the dry wines, and then we went to the oxidative wines with Oloroso and Amontillado with different agings, time of agings, 12 and 20. And now we go to a sweet wine. I think this is very, actually, sometimes I started tasting with this wine, and it's not the type of order you would expect, because the people normally go from the white biological to sweetness. But when we try to now reach younger generations and make sherry great again. I think when you go first with the dry, you may have your face like this because you haven't tried that before. So when you have something sweet, maybe you are not an enthusiastic of sweet, but you will like it. So I think it's the best way to start in the sherry wine world is to go first with the sweet, and then you would take off some sweet and go for the other wines like Oloroso. So in this particular wine, we have 9 years of aging, again, many years of aging, a small saca of around 1,000 bottles. And the particular thing also about this wine is that we have two different grapes, Fino, Oloroso, and Amontillado. All of them were made from only one grape, Palomino grape, and now we have two. We have Palomino and Pedro Jimenez. It's also interesting because Palomino it's white and Pedro Jimenez is also white. They're both white grapes, and here we have a brown, more intense color, and it's because we dry the grapes of Pedro Jimenez in the sun. We put the grapes outside, and we concentrate the sugar of these grapes by using the sun, very technological tool. So we have this, we concentrate the sweetness of the grape, and we get this again with this brown color from making this oxidation and concentration of the grape. So we mix both grapes, and actually we call this, it's a blend of two wines. We said it's two grapes, but normally we have one wine, Oloroso is the base, and then we mix a Pedro Jimenez, a pure Pedro Jimenez wine. We choose to have like a very high percentage of Oloroso. We put San Pedro Jimenez in the wine to to have this sweet in the wine. So it's like a sweet Oloroso, I would say. So the big part of the wine is Oloroso, and a small part is it's around 15% of the wine is Pedro Jimenez. So we have this sweetness and color from the Pedro Jimenez.
And I get a lot of coffee flavors, burnt toffee again, almonds, raisins, black currants, but also plum, dried cherries. And it's very attractive also. But you said like the Oloroso, and the Oloroso has a lot of sea breeze in it. And here the sea breeze is there, but the sweetness, it covers a little bit of the sea breeze.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So now you find more sweet, more caramel in the wine, and it's also very nice to smell. And the name it's because actually the origin of the cream, it's not, as you see, it's not a Spanish name. Some people in Spain call it creme, but when we started, or the sherry wineries started selling outside Spain, they found out that some people like sweet, as I told you before. So they started making these blends of Oloroso, giving them some sweetness. So to be easier for them to drink those wines that were very dry. So this is like a very customized product for the in that for the British community, and that were our main clients in the world, the whole Engage Britain, and we personalize the wines to actually each different part of the world, and in this case, they decided that sweetness would be very interesting for the people from their country.
And again, this is very versatile, very gastronomic. But what kind of food would you pair it with? Because if you have a dessert, you have almost always you have a very sweet dessert, but this isn't very sweet.
No, that's the
Very
important thing.
interesting.
We are not looking for a very sweet wine here. We are looking for a wine that again could be paired with food. We see that and we were very focused on gastronomic wines. And in this case, we want to be sweet, but at balance. I mean, it stays in mouth like 3 seconds, and it makes you think of having another sip to again taste the wine. And it's very interesting. Well, I think the couple of ways of drinking it. You can also have it as an appetizer. You can have it on the rocks. So you have one glass with big blocks of ice and a slice of orange. This wine pairs very well with orange, and you can drink it alone before eating something, or again at evening at home. And that's very nice way to drink it. Another way to drink it is, well, you again, you can have it with an starter, with, for example, foie gras again. Blue cheeses could be a very good combination, and also it's many times used in having a dessert. Not as a dessert itself. You could do it also like that, but as it is not so sweet as you would find a Pedro Jimenez, a pure Pedro Jimenez, you can have it with fruit, for example, and you could have it with pastry also, and very, I would say, a Spanish way to have it in summer is with an ice cream, vanilla ice cream, for example. It's a very good combination of vanilla with the sweetness of the cream.
I'm going to be busy because I want to try it all. Yeah,
You have
perfect.
a long summers.
Yeah, and the price of the cream, I have to say it correctly, it's 28 euros and 75 cents. So again, for a very complex wine, it's not expensive at all. You really have to try it. I will share my thoughts of the dessert with vanilla, with other rocks, with some orange peel in it. Thank you very much for this tasting, but I'm very curious, what are you going to make of Vino de Pasto, the unfortified sherries? Can you share something about it?
Yeah, well, the good thing also of this project is that we, the team or the family, because this is a family-owned company again, we have a mixture of, for example, my father that have been working in the vineyards his whole life, and me and my brothers are also now involved in the project. We have these different ways of thinking, and so we have this experience from the past, and we also have this innovation mindset and experimentation. We're very focused on customers, so we want not to create products or wines for making them, but we really want to have products for the customer and the people to enjoy them. So we have new products each year. This year we'll have a Pedro Jimenez in our portfolio, so we'll go to the seventh wine. And we are going to also start this year producing our first Vino de Pasto. To the people that don't know, Vino de Pasto is a still wine from the Marco of Jerez, or from Cádiz, that we use. Well, we use the same grapes, we use Palomino grapes, and we also have this same soil that we haven't talked during the podcast, but it's Albariza. Albariza soil is very specific soil with a white chalky color, like a sponge, that's very good for reflecting the sun and keeping the humidity from the rains that we have during the year. And although we have some hot in the region, it keeps the humidity all the year long. So we are going to jump also for introduce this still wine, white wine from Palomino grapes, that nowadays people call it Vino de Pasto. It may not have that name in the coming years. It may be included in the denomination of origin Jerez. Now it's not included. It's a different wine. It's a different group of wines, and I think they are very trendy nowadays. They have also lower graduation of alcohol, and I think it is the first step for maybe introducing people to sherry. So we really are very keen of going to that also production of wines, because it will be the open door for our portfolio for the sherry, and also a new generation that haven't tried sherry before.
And are you going to make a vino de pasta from Sanlúcar and vino de pasta from Jerez, both of them, and also maybe a blended one?
Well, the first year, well, we have many ideas to test and to try. So it's a very fun project because it's making a new product and we love to try things. So the idea of this first wine is to make it from the vineyard from Jerez. And the good thing is, as you said, that we have also Sanlúcar. So next year probably we'll have another one from Sanlúcar. We will see that difference from being in the different pagos also because these wines would have a lot of influence from the soil, from the pago that we have the vineyards. We also have very old vineyards, like around 30 years, 35 years, and now we have also we plant 5 years ago some vineyards, and we have planted again this year. So we also have different parts of within our vineyards to try different wines, and very enthusiastic with this project. And you will see that that will be very interesting and very easy to drink.
Very looking forward to hearing and tasting more of these kind of wines. Pablo, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
Well, I think I'm representing our winery, but I think that I am also like a sponsor of Sherry, and I think that, well, I live in Madrid. Of course, the winery, they are part of the family living and taking care of the vineyards and the winery in Jerez and Sanlúcar. But we are focused also in the international market. As you see that we are talking from Spain to the Netherlands, and I think that sherry is a fantastic wine. People think it's old, but it's old and like very traditional, but it's caspy. But I think it's the other way around. It's a very cheap product. It's very, I think, very interesting. Also, we haven't talked about having them in cocktails. So you can have, for example, a margarita made from. So you have a fino margarita, and also I think when I said cocktails, I say high end. Also, I think cocktails are also very good door for also young generation to try these wines and these flavors and different contrast in the wine are very special to go outside Spain, and I'm very happy to restart this project and having sherry again in the world. We are also have these wines in New York, and I think it's a very good moment to sell sherry with quality. And we are looking, I think, not only us but the region for quality. We have less volume but more quality, and I think that people should try sherry and enjoy it because with meals, I think that there is not a competitor having a meal and give you a very nice experience.
I totally agree. And Vino is aged under biological flor. So the yeast is biological yeast. It's a natural product. It's very it's almost like a natural wine, vin nature, but you don't call it like that because it's very old. Uh, but yeah, it is a natural wine.
No, it's very well. We have a very traditional way of making wine, and if you go to the region and visit, well, our winery, or you will see that it's a very different atmosphere, and you see that these wines and the sherry regions is one of the classics that will never disappear because we have been making wine since the Phoenicians thousands of years ago. So you need to know we have lost probably a generation of people having the sherry, but we again, I think the new generations of the wineries are trying to have these wines again with young people, and seeing that that are magnific products and wines to be drink in all the world, and we are working on that.
Pablo, thank you very much for your time. thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for restarting the project again. If you want to know more about Bodegas Viuda de Mangon, I will share some links in the show notes. If you want to buy them in the Netherlands, go to Antworps. Also, the link will be there. I will also make a short article of it. And if you want to buy it somewhere else in the world, just send Pablo a message and he will answer it shortly for you. Pablo, thank you very much. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure of having this conversation with you, and I hope you enjoyed this digital tasting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much, Pablo.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.